Now, from the possibility of a peace deal helmed by US President Joe Biden on Tuesday to frantic attempts to save face just a day later, the geopolitical landscape in West Asia has been evolving rapidly. In a bid to diffuse tensions, US President Joe Biden arrived in Tel Aviv, holding talks with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to offer his full solidarity. But he's increasingly finding himself isolated in a region where Washington has been the predominant superpower for decades.
And Americans are worried. Americans are worried because we know this is not an easy field to navigate. And we have to also bear in mind that Hamas does not represent all the Palestinian people. And it has brought them only suffering.
Hamas murdered children in front of their parents and parents in front of their children. They burnt people alive. They raped and murdered women. They beheaded soldiers. They searched for the secret hiding places where parents hid their children. And just imagine, Mr. President, the fear and the panic of those little children in their last moments as the monsters found out their hiding places. Hamas kidnapped women, children, elderly, Holocaust survivors. I know you share our outrage on this, and I know you share our determination to bring these people back.
As the death toll continues to rise in Gaza following the disastrous attack on a hospital and with outrage spilling over to the streets, the Arabian bloc has gone into a huddle in the Saudi city of Jeddah. The Organization of Islamic Nation has convened an emergency meeting to discuss the situation in Palestine. The Foreign Minister of Iran, one of the most vocal critics of the Israeli state, landed in Saudi Arabia earlier today for the meeting. The OIC includes most members of the Arab bloc, including the ring of nations that surround Israel. The meeting assumes significance in the wake of the earlier meeting that was supposed to take place in Jordan's capital of Amman. As per the original plan announced on Tuesday by US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, the US President was all set to hold talks with Egypt's leader, Ibrahim al-Sisi, Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas, and Jordan's king Abdullah II. Now, this meeting would have followed his Israel visit and was widely speculated to offer a healing touch to the war-torn region. But within hours of the attack on the Gaza Hospital, the meeting was called off by Jordan. Just a fortnight ago, Saudi Arabia was in talks with Israel and the United States to sign on a normalization deal. This in the backdrop of historic Abraham Accords earlier that saw Arab nations like UAE and Bahrain engage with Israel after years of friction. But now the battle lines are being redrawn again, at least geopolitically. Now for more on this, we are being joined by our correspondent Siddhant Sibul live from Tel Aviv. Siddhant, it's good to have you on this broadcast. What is the latest you have for us from Tel Aviv?
Well, we have heard the comments by the Israeli Prime Minister and the US President. The US President clearly saying that the Gaza hospital explosion was done by, to quote unquote, the other side. Now, of course, we know that immediately after that explosion, the Israelis and the Palestinians were trading blames, even as the Israeli side pointed out that this was a failed rocket attack by the Islamic Jihad, while the Palestinians had a different version of the same thing, and that has the region on boils. We saw a lot of protests in the region, and of course the Israeli side also raising alert for its citizens in countries like Turkey. But where I am standing, there is groundswell anger against, of course, what has happened on 7th of October with the death of several Israelis and several Israelis being kept as hostages. If we can show you around me, people coming up with posters and posters of their loved ones bring our sisters and brothers home now. Visuals of those who are missing, kidnapped. There are people who kidnapped who the age 64 and 62. But remember, they're just not old people, but also very young people who have been kidnapped. And since morning, we have been here since almost like 2 to 3 hours, and we have seen how the family members are concerned and hoping against hope that their loved ones will be released very soon. They've reached out to the government, and we spoke to the family members who said that they hope that with the visit of the US President, there will be some kind of relief. Now, the US President here will be meeting with the President now and also the war cabinet here, and he's also expected to meet some family members as well. But essentially, this is a visit of solidarity and to show support for the people of Israel, even as the country is dealing with its worst attack. Almost 1,400 Israelis have died, and almost 200 of them have also been kidnapped.
Right, Siddhant, I want to go back to a point you briefly mentioned. During the joint statement that we saw between US President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, it seemed like Biden gave Israel the green light to act as it sees fit against Hamas, of course. I want to ask you, how are people of Israel viewing this high-level visit, and do they think that Biden's visit could actually change the course of the war?
So there are two aspects to it. The first aspect, when it comes to the visit of the US President, many are happy that the US President has traveled to Israel. It's a country which is at war as of now. It's very rare for US presidents to travel to places which are so unsafe as of now, even though security has been significantly increased. But additionally, the second aspect to it is that the US President clearly outlined there's a difference between Hamas and there's a difference between Palestine. He pointed out that Hamas is a group that is responsible for these atrocities. There are, of course, parallels being drawn with the Islamic State as well. But essentially, on the ground, the hopes are that things are sorted out as soon as possible, with the priority being put on the hostages, because the situation is delicate and there are almost 200 people who are kept as hostages. So their safety is paramount for the Israeli government, and the Israeli government has clearly said that they will be leaving no stone unturned to make sure that they are released. But essentially, if there is a ground action in Gaza, that is something that the Israeli side is saying that is to deal with the Hamas hideouts, but that can have a larger geopolitical aspect as well.
All right, Siddhant, thank you for getting us all those insights, and we hope that you are safe.